wars, but they don't know how to solve them. Oh yeah, oh yeah. The system make all the problems. They make the wars, but they don't know how to solve them. Oh no, hey, well it's a easy. Fly overhead and drop your bombs upon the innocents. It's a easy. Fly overhead and drop your bombs upon the sufferers. Let me tell you, war is not the solution. War is not the solution. War on strike is not the solution. Never was, never will be so. Babylon cause all the problems. Oh Lord, make you watch, but you don't know how to solve them. Oh yeah, oh yeah. The system make all the problems. Suffering the innocent, to the problem they've got no solution. Oh no, oh yeah. Mashing up the earth with your iron feet. Coming with the food philosophy. You think that war gonna bring you peace? But let me tell you now, blood dripping down your dollars now, blood dripping down your aliens, blood running down your conscience to make you worse, but you got no solution. Babylon cause all the problems. Oh yeah, make you watch, but you don't know how to solve them. Hey, oh yeah, system make all the problems. Suffering the masses to the problems they've got no solution. Oh no, oh yeah, Babylon cause all the problems. Oh yeah. Stop it, chicken, and making more wars. Stop your wars. System cause all the problems. Tell you that. Be you black, be you black, be you white, be you white. The music just Hey,
Winsty and David.
Tell you that. Be you black,
be you black,
be you white, be you white. Be you brown, 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 brown. We could have still live as one love. Be you black,
be you black,
be you white. Doesn't matter. Be you brown, 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 brown.
We could have still live as one.
Tell you why. Racial pride is a cancer. Prejudice is a rat disaster. These are ways and a means to divide the people here. Dividing and ruling. Racism is a catastrophe. Reviving hate and partiality. Running through their hearts and their minds of humanity. Yeah. So, why can't we come together and unite? That's it. And unite. People are people. Black, black, brown, yellow, oh, white. Doesn't matter. Why must you go through life surrounded by your hate and your strife? Love for you is a life for I. Throw away your foolish pride and go beside it. So, why, sir, you really wanna know why? Oh, yes, I wanna know.
and your strife,
Love for you is a
life for I,
throw away
your foolish pride. Y'all come in and share the live.
Too much of a shall cry.
Y'all, so I'm trying to up my DJ game. Mervin, what is that? What kind of love is
You should giving me a job, man.
yeah, man, I'm trying to up my DJ game. Yo,
Hey, listen.
welcome. Happy Saturday. It's a beautiful Saturday. I think a lot of people are out in the streets. There's a carnival in Boston today. There's carnival in England, right? It's Nottingham Carnival. So, yeah, a lot of people out there just shaking their waist. But see, the wise people, we're about to chat. We're about to
There's a
chat.
lot of people who indicated that they would be looking on. So.
Y'all, I'm very excited. I'm very excited. Y'all know me. I'm Dr. Triffy, aka Dr. Tripping, a title that I embrace with love and appreciation. With love and appreciation. And every now and then, Mervin and I, we show up on Saturdays and we keep what we hope are meaningful conversations with you. Tonight we have a special guest. Y'all can already see his name, his face. I learned something about him today that I didn't know. That he's the son of Freddie Nicholas. Yeah,
That's
did
my
you know that?
that's my very, very, very good friend, Freddie.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
So we have with us
Freddie and I go
45-year-old. What you say, Mervin?
Freddie and I go back a long way. That's my very, very
Wow.
good friend.
45-year-old network administrator and Munsewie activist Tyrone Nicholas. He's the son of Freddie Nicholas and deceased banker Karen Nicholas. He formerly attended community high school. One of my sisters went to community high. And Clifton Dupini Community College. I went there. And he studied sociology, geography, and English. And he's got 25 years of experience in the field of IT, yeah, information technology, and continuously living in Dominica. That's an important.
Yeah, it's important to note that.
I appreciate that little piece right there.
Yes,
Welcome,
yes.
man. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And greetings to Mervin.
Yeah, greetings,
And
brother.
I hoping that we can have a very engaging discussion. And I hoping to learn as much from you as maybe you can hear from me.
I appreciate you saying yes. Right, Mervin?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
man.
for the opportunity, man. I welcome it.
Yes. So, y'all, like I said earlier this week, I want to keep talking about electoral reform and these consultations we're having in Dominica, virtually with Dominicans who have been living in Dominica continuously and those who have not. And I wanted to invite Mr. Nicholas. I can call him Mr. Nicholas all night if you prefer, or
Sure. You
Tyrone.
can call me Flaco. You can call me Mr. Nicholas.
Ooh, yeah, I can call you Flacco as well. I wanted to invite him, y'all, because I listened to his presentation in one of the consultations. And for me, the word is not impressed because, I think like I take that, like that's a given, but I was inspired. I feel very inspired by the words that you used to describe this experience that we're having. And I am very eager to listen more because some of the things you said made me think about things in a different way. So, would you please tell the people a little bit more about you? That's the fancy, bio. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, I wouldn't call myself, I wouldn't say that I'm any special. I would say that I have had an average upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was raised really by my well, my father was there, but because of his work, having to travel and play in all these other countries, then there was my grandmother and my aunties and my mother filling in that gap.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I kind of share some of the stories of other individuals, in my peer group, and even now, because yes, home things at home started off. Many people might say that they attended the wedding of my mom and my dad and so on, but it wasn't meant to work out, because of the stresses of life. And I think that kind of that kind of makes it easy to relate to a lot of other people coming from, maybe not the ideal home situation, or the home structure,
Mm-hmm.
and even now, understanding that the economic stresses and the part that it had to play in, say, for example, our parents, not just mine, but our parents not having that time to spend, with us. And these days, what I say is that we need to get engaged in the kind of activity that will empower us or elevate us to the level where we are able to to come off the clock, to afford time, because when we talk about time, we talk about spending. And anytime
Mm-hmm.
we talk about spending, we typically talk about spending in relations to money, but it's also important to recognize our time as a currency as well. And we need to be able to spend that time in those places. And I think having those experiences and growing up in Dominican, like I said, without I mean, yeah, take a vacation now and then, travel to another Caribbean country or so, but majority of my time has been spent here, and I've seen the good parts of it. And it is not it's not where it has always been bad. um
Mm-hmm.
Dominicans, we pride ourselves on that simplistic humility, and us being really down to earth and so on. But I think there's at some point we need to basically like do an audit and understand that although we grateful for these small mercies that we might have been blessed with, we
Mm-hmm.
can we cannot become complacent in demanding our development, not just in terms of the physical, and but in terms of people development. I maybe being a psychologist, you could relate to, you could understand where I'm coming from, because typically when we talk about development at home, when we talk about the buildings and how the aesthetics of the place look and so on, but does the mind of the people get a chance to develop? Do we get a chance to express our trauma, and to have that safe place to basically recover from it, and in so doing become a soldier, I like to call it, to free others and to empower others. So
I'm
um,
hearing a couple things
I don't
from
want to be
you.
gone too long, but
I'm hearing a
that's
couple
just,
things from you. Yeah, nah, I'm hearing a couple things from you. I'm hearing you like almost like you have a vision for us Dominicans to move beyond survival mode,
yeah,
to begin to expect that we are worthy of more and better, and at
of course,
least, at the
of
very
course,
least,
of course.
equivalent to what we see everywhere else that we go. And perhaps we had hoped
I think
that we
even
would have
better.
arrived at that by now.
Yeah, I think
Mervin,
I think
go
we
ahead.
we we can become the model for for greatness, but we cannot allow ourselves to become subdued, by how would I say it? I would Some people would call it the Eurocentric mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just basically the way we perceive our environment and ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because that perception is basically how we treat each other. I listened to a discussion some of my peers were having where they were basically saying that we we are said to be loving and welcoming people, but we tend to treat outsiders better than our own people that we live with. So
Yeah.
we need to begin to change that, so that when anybody from the outside comes in and they witness the way that we treat each other, the way we live together, we become a spectacle to behold. We become an example, something to model others' behaviors by, and it's not even so much about others. It's really have to become about the next generation, because we are here now.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the youth and them going astray, but have we been honest with ourselves and with them?
How
Because
so?
we may believe that when we talk to the young people, that that they that we might be talking from a place of experience and they may be naive, but
Mm-hmm.
whenever we are dishonest to ourselves, they see that, and they can see through the charade,
So they see
so,
the double standard, and it
yeah,
becomes
it's
hard to trust
hypocrisy,
our
of course.
words.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they know, you see, that's the hurtful thing, is to know that a lot of youths coming up, they link their deprivation to that time that that has been taken away from them, basically by their parents having to be in that survival mode. So it's almost like a contemptuous situation, where you are coming to tell me to subscribe to something that hasn't worked for you your entire life.
And I can see that. And I can
Yeah.
see that by the results.
Yes. It's a seething, deep contempt in the hearts of young people, I believe.
Oh,
If you want the young people to listen to you, it's not just a matter of giving instructions, because that's what a dictator does.
mm-hmm.
A dictator just gives instructions, gives order to follow. But
Mm-hmm.
we need somebody to begin to lead by example. Yeah. Somebody that will, because in all of in all of the 18 or so years that I've I've lived through a lot of governments. I'm 45. In the next 5 years, I'll be 50. I
Mm-hmm.
may not have seen the time of Patrick John and so, but I've seen Edison James in power. I've seen Dame Eugenia in power. I've seen Pierre Charles. Um, I've
Right.
seen,
Rosie.
up to this point, the prime minister himself will tell you that I was a student of his at the college.
Gotcha.
So I've seen all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and I have never heard a leader speak to Dominican people and impress upon them their value, you know, their worth,
Because that's
that
where
they
Dominica's
have.
value comes out
Yes,
of.
because that is where the value doesn't derive from the earth and the stones and the trees and it, that is just a small part of it. We are the value of Dominica.
You almost seem to suggest that what we're experiencing might be almost the opposite. Well, I don't know if it's the opposite, but definitely the youth especially do not seem to be like, they feel like they're spending, so it's like you're in the hole. You're spending, your time is not the value that should be equivalent to the time you're putting out. It's not there.
Yeah, because I think you everybody has a gift, has a skill, has something that
Mhm.
they came to offer, and to live a life that you never get the chance to express that or to fulfill that. I think
That's
that
a
is the greatest tragedy
sin against
on
your humanity.
on earth, you know,
That is, can you say
because
that again? Can you say that again? I don't know that people really understand that piece, because if I am placed on a, for some reason, life decided that I needed to be born in Dominica, and I have zero, well, I have very few opportunities to actualize myself as a human being in the country because of what's in my environment. What's in my environment doesn't support my human
yeah,
development and growth to my apex.
yeah, because uh, we keep searching for solutions, but the solutions are not um solutions that we talk about when we speak about solutions. These are just abstract. These are just ideas that we are searching for. But where do those ideas reside? Where do those ideas live? In the minds of the people.
In the human being.
You understand? So you cannot you cannot remove the human from participation in his own development. He has to be involved.
Well, as you say that, how do you, what are your thoughts, right, on that level as you look at us trying, we say, to reform our electoral process? Well, how does that line
Oh
up?
boy. I think we there's a thing that we say, and we tend to say a lot of things like, and not really do the deep introspection of what we say. We say that we say that leadership is everything, you know. So do we really believe that? And if we believe that, then what is it that we expect from our leaders? You know,
And when we don't get it, what do we do about it? What do we do to get the result that we say should be coming?
you see the the how would I put it now? The reason we're having these discussions at this level
Mhm.
is is a reflection of us basically, and in the leadership that we have chosen, we are basically looking at ourselves in the mirror. You know, we complain about this man, but we don't see that
That's,
he is, because we are.
it's us.
Okay, so if you say in that um majority rules, so then what must we do with the minority? All
Oof.
these are questions of leadership, because as a leader holding a majority, you instruct the people who support you on how we should treat the minority.
Yes, yes, yes.
So are you saying that because you are a minority that you have no say?
No value.
So when we talk, because, and I like to connect words, I like to connect words like minority and
Hmm.
minors. So
Mm.
how do we treat the minors in our society? How are they perceived?
Hmm.
Because basically they are powerless, and they are under our charge, under our care. So we are the majors. And how are we dealing with our minors? So I like to look at things, at life, like a Russian doll. It's a world within a world within a world. And
One.
whatever obtains on earth, almost biblical, so it
Mhm.
is on earth. So as it is in heaven, so it is on earth.
That's
As it
law.
is, as it
Universal
is in
law.
big things, yeah, as it is in big things, so it is in small things.
Yes.
So if we decide that we are a majority and we have the ultimate power, and we decide how we're going to deal with the minority. Then by our actions, that's by our fruits we will be known. You know, by what we demonstrate, it will show our character. But do we even understand what character is?
You're talking about how does the strong man deal with the very weak man?
Yeah,
Because that shows you whether very strong. That was my. I had a lot of rage last year at the concept of like I'm. I call it a bel fan.
yeah,
I'm a bel fan, and I continue to ride a weakling. It's like they really that doesn't. It says more about me and the way I'm doing, who I am, than the
yeah.
weak.
But on the electoral reform matter, I believe we we started wrong.
How so?
Um, Again, leadership is everything, and
Can I?
if you
Is it okay if I just
yes,
comment?
you can go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tyrone, if you don't mind me calling you Tyrone.
No problem.
Yeah. First of all, let me say that I listened to the quote unquote consultations in part because of work schedule, and also I think what I believe is what I feel is a trick exercise. Um, Now, I paid particular attention to your presentation, Tyrone, after, um, and I looked at it in its entirety. And I will coin it and describe it as, in light of all what were going on in the discussions all over thus far, it was sobering. One of the things that I admired most about it was in the noise,
Mhm,
your poise
mhm,
was attractive,
mhm,
quite apart from the content of what you presented, which I hope didn't fly over the head of some
mhm,
or discarded by many.
mhm.
And I believe these are key components of, or should be key components of, not just tonight's discussion, but all the so called consultations and those which are to come. Soberness, content, and impact. Now, in your opening comments or preamble tonight, you said a lot of things which I believe is going to be very pertinent to the discussion tonight, because you touched on some very key things. You mentioned the word leadership over and over. Um, you One of the things that stuck with me is when you said the leader or leadership is reflective of the people.
Yes.
And while we clamoring about leadership, it's positive or it's negative, we seem to lose sight of the fact that the leadership is a creation of us,
Yeah.
our society, our people created. And one of the questions it left me with is, if we are able now to see what we've created and placed upon ourselves,
Mhm.
what are we currently doing to ensure that there's not a repeat? What are we doing to ensure there's not a repeat? Obviously, there's a need to stop the hemorrhaging.
Mhm.
This is beyond question, at least beyond question in my mind. There's a desperate need and cry to stop the current hemorrhaging. But what we must be mindful of is that we don't attempt to or succeed in stopping the hemorrhaging and create a much larger or more gaping wound going forward. The question is, have our current leadership gone so far to suppress or create a replica of what currently exists that you and I fear that another monster might arise from what is left behind? Or
Mhm.
is there still hope? And if there is, what are people like you and I prepared to do to ensure that the next 20 years is
Yeah.
not a repeat of what currently exists?
That last part. What are we willing to do to ensure? But then that is also rooted in how valuable, how worthy do I think I am? Do I think I deserve
And let me
this new creation?
let me just add. Oftentimes, when we mention the word leadership,
Yeah.
right,
Mm-hmm.
we say leadership, and we say it from a position where we're looking at something or someone
Right.
in front of us or
Mm-hmm.
ahead of us,
Mm-hmm.
or we say it while in our mind seeing a vacuum between ourselves and
And then,
something or
yeah.
somebody else,
Yeah.
or there's a gulf.
Yes.
I believe that's a mistake that we've been making for
Absolutely.
centuries. Leadership is all of us.
That's right.
Leadership is within all of us. You see, anytime people start to think about leadership and extract themselves from it, but see it as beyond them, you are actually handing somebody or somebody else the power that you have
You're creating that reality.
to chat your direction. So you're
Yeah.
telling them, look, chat
Yeah.
my direction, and you extracting yourself from it. And once any leader recognizes that that is what the people has done, what do you think they're going to do? What they're going
Well,
to do?
depending on the character of the leader.
Yeah, well, either way,
Well,
if the person has good character, then they're going to take it and work with it to your advantage. But the reverse is the same.
Mm-hmm.
I, I can weigh in on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, and that is, you see, what we that last part of your discussion is why we cannot continue the model of placing our complete and our complete and devoted trust in any one leader or any man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think we have an opportunity here right now to really redefine the 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 environment, because unless we change that environment, unless we, because we might see the problem as getting rid, like Mervin was saying, is getting rid of or stopping the hemorrhaging,
Mm-hmm.
but it goes further than that, because how we deal with the situation right now is going to define the outcome. And that's why I was saying the process began in a flawed manner from the onset. Because if we are saying that we are a nation of laws, then we have to honor the Constitution,
We talk
and
about that a lot.
we have to see that as the ultimate guide to not just our behavior towards each other, but the people in office. Now, when you look at the prime minister, the president, the police commissioner, all of these are creatures that were created by the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
When we see the police, we recognize authority. If we was doing something, we fix ourselves. When we see the president, we recognize all of these powers. But do we recognize our powers? Because for there to be a government, there must be the governed. And our rights, what our values are highlighted as the first pages of the Constitution. Our rights were created before any prime minister or any other
Wow.
creature of the Constitution.
Yeah.
That is
No,
why. That is why. And let me just plug in here.
yes, go ahead.
That is why I said we should never, or we should stop speaking about leadership in isolation of who we are.
We are.
Yes,
We should never extract ourselves from the word when we hear leadership. Oh, this is the leader, or this is leadership.
Right.
You are part of leadership.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
are leadership. And you
Yes.
made the point. Every single individual has some contribution to make towards moving the whole process forward. Therefore,
Right.
they are involved in leadership. That is the mistake we've done. We've handed leadership to someone
Mhm.
and allow ourselves to be led as against adopting what should be the collective approach towards leadership.
I would I would
Do
I would
you
add to
do
I
you
would add to
know?
what you're saying, Mervin, that although we might identify the problem as reaching its climax right now, the problem didn't begin here. It didn't begin with these 20 years.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
believe the problem started from, even further, way back then. I can talk about, let's say, Dame Eugenia, when she removed the civics from school. You
Hmm.
know, I don't think that was well intended at all.
But it
Why
may
would
have gone
you?
further back from her too, you know.
Even rightly so, because we even the parliamentary commissioner, we have not had a parliamentary commissioner from our independence, and we have been recognizing and picking and choosing, playing hopscotch with what we want to
Picking
choose,
and
what we want to
choosing.
follow out of the constitution. But no, it is a complete body of work, and it must be recognized in its entirety. Now, when you talk about character, I think if we had leaders, or let's bring it to these 20 years. If we had a leader that had good character, having the desire to remove all doubt and to truly unite the people
Hmm.
behind the question of electoral reform, they would have gone through the route of the constitution. And I'll tell you why. The constitution dictates that the electoral commission has this sole function. If there was no need for electoral reform or any need to supervise or to manage elections, there would be no need for an electoral commission. So that is its purpose. Now, like I said in my delivery, that I believe that the framers of the Constitution in the halls of Westminster recognized that if any one political side were to try to reform or to meddle in the rules of elections, or to then
Hmm.
that by the people who are governed would be seen as as unfair, or as much as it could be well intended, that we could go there with all our noble intent, and we people are people. And the people who framed the Constitution understood that, why they gave us an electoral commission, so that when they carry out their work, we can be confident that it is impartial. It does not have any political tint or any political leaning. Because what is civility without the trust of the people? What is authority without the people having the ability to trust you?
Yeah. We break
So
down the very fabric of the
yes,
society when we
yes.
do this. We
When you
lose
do that,
trust. People lose trust.
of course,
And everything is up for grabs.
yes, and that is what it is. And what should be, like Sir Dennis Byron said, what should have been an ongoing and
Hmm. It's
incremental process
yes, yes, yes.
has now become a mud pit, with everybody casting in their bets. You know, what I would like to ask us is, has the consultations thus far, um, has it shown us that we have any kind of civility? Has it shown us that we are able to reach out on the other side, and to understand another person's perspective? Because while, yes, there are things that I might have my objections to, but that doesn't stop me from hearing another perspective, hearing what somebody else might have to say. Because my belief or my what I might think now is not set in stone. Okay, so for example, when I talk about well, I didn't really talk about it in in the um the consultation, and purposely so, you know. But I'll come back to that. When somebody becomes a naturalized citizen of the US in particular, you have to renounce your allegiance and your citizenship to any other state. So I'm questioning myself, you know, wondering like, is there anything such as a dual citizen
Mm.
by the virtue that you have to renounce allegiance to other states whenever you take up citizenship, you
Mm.
know? So somebody might say like, okay, you renounce Dominica, so by that you should not be able to participate in our elections. And I might side with that, okay? And there are other arguments that say, well, okay, once you are born Dominican, your name should remain on the register. Nobody should take off your name. And on that, I still kind of on the fence. I still kind of undecided, you know. And the only way I can really have a a, a sensible, make come to a sensible decision or make a, you know, is to hear the arguments on both sides and understand that above all, what we are trying to achieve is the security of our electoral process. Okay?
The high goal for all
Yeah,
of us.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now I want to circle back to the reason why I talking about the points of the, you know, the electoral, the document, the surveillance
Mm.
document. But I refused to speak about those those reforms at the consultation because I wanted the people to acknowledge that we initiated a flawed we initiated an unconstitutional process
Because
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 it was the duty of the electoral reform to carry out
cons-
these consultations so that it can be
The
seen
Electoral
as
Commission.
a sense of
impartial
impartiality.
and non-political.
You're talking
Yeah.
about the Electoral Commission, right?
Right, the
Yeah.
electoral commission. So I'm looking at the government deciding on a commissioner and just deciding to pay him.
Right.
And where was the electoral commission in that? You know, in that decision. So I wanted us in that first set of consultations to acknowledge that. And when I was done speaking, the prime minister came and he went on talking about how we should, you know, focus on the contents of the report. And while yes, I can appreciate the contents of the report and so on, we have to debate so and so and so. But you, as our leader, we need you to acknowledge that you have acted unconstitutionally.
But hold on. But hold on. That well, I don't know if it's surprising to you. It's not surprising to me.
No, it's not. It's not
Let, let,
surprising.
let, let me tell you why. Because that is a modus operandi to deflect from
Yeah.
the pertinent points and focus on what I think you should focus on, what I say you should focus on. Now, I would love to come back to the issue of renouncing citizenship and that kind of thing, because I don't know if you're asked to renounce as against pledging allegiance to, which is different.
Hmm.
But that being said, I want to just and I don't want to say too much to have you lose what the point you were making. But it's very interesting that you would say that after you made the presentation to highlight a flawed aspect of the discussion and maybe the most fundamentally flawed aspect of the consultation,
Right.
that there was an attempt to sort of pour cold water on your salient observation that we should focus on the content. There's nothing wrong in focusing on the content, but we must focus on the process
Process.
that brought the content forward.
Process.
And that will determine whether focusing on the content at all is legitimate at this time.
Yep.
You understand? And
Yeah.
and you're right. The Electoral Commission has that responsibility. At
Yeah.
none of what they call consultation thus far was the chairman of the Electoral Commission chairing or moderating the function.
Mm-hmm.
At none of these discussions did I see him seeking to discuss any point that was brought forward from the audience. It was always Skerrit, Francine Barron, or Levi Peter, creatures of the Dominican Labour Party. Right away, the whole function appears to be tainted and painted red.
And even I can go.
Thus already making an independent person think, well, this thing is skewed.
And that's just rational. That's just rational. That's just.
But I want to go a little further, because I want to share some of the experiences I had after the whole consultation and interacting with people and so on. And I wasn't asking anybody any questions. I said my piece, right. And I was just taking my little eats and stuff and thing, and for me to go along my merry way. And while I was, having my little snacks and so, this lady, well, she announced herself as the cab sec. I can't remember the face, but to say that I remember the name.
Karen, I know her very well.
She's saying to me that the Electoral Commission doesn't have the executive to manage the process. So by that virtue, the executive of the government, basically.
Did you ask for an explanation?
Of the DLP government.
Did you ask for an explanation?
No, I did not ask. I thought my mouth was full with food, bro. I didn't get a chance to ask nobody question.
No. I mean, when she made that point to you, did you ask her to explain what she meant by that?
That may be the mistake I made, is that I didn't press her.
Because that doesn't make sense at all to me.
That sounds like a rule. That sounds like a new rule somebody just came up with.
Yeah, but it's like after I didn't say anything, not even to my brothers, in Munsawi. I sit on my bed and I let it play out in my mind a few times, and then I'm like, wait a while, how are you telling me that the Electoral Commission doesn't have the staff or the executive to carry out that reform consultation or that reform process?
Yet they just hold an election last
when
year,
they call a snap election, you know what I'm saying? So
hold on. When who called snap election?
Well, the executive, the one in charge of the executive.
Do you think realistically the electoral commission had anything to do with calling election?
No.
Exactly. So let's not even make that point to make people believe that the Electoral Commission had anything to do with the calling of election.
Oh, it's dead. You're saying it's just a weak organization.
The current Electoral Commission simply rubber stamps everything that comes from the executive of the Dominican Labour Party. So let us not put that out there to make people believe. Somebody logging into the program for the first time will believe that the Electoral Commission had a say in determining anything about any election. And I'm not asking you that. I'm speaking. I don't know if you know too much about me, but I'm speaking from a position where I know that.
Wow, boy.
I know that. And let me tell you why I can speak so strongly, Tyrone. You may not have known much about me. Dr. Triffitt can tell you, on this particular platform, I was maybe the only person who said it is time for independent candidates to come forward.
Yes.
And a lot of people tell me, it wouldn't work. Independent candidates can't work in Dominica. Well, here we are.
Yes.
But we'll deal with that another time, because I shared my vision on why there need to be more independent thinkers. And some people tell me, it's not going to work.
You absolutely did.
Yes. I was the person who pushed that idea. Yes. And a lot of people who said it wouldn't work are now telling me, boy, what did you see?
Yes.
My response is what many people chose not to see. Not could not see, they chose not to see.
Right.
But back to the point. So the Electoral Commission have had nothing to do, or had nothing to do with
And
the
so they appear right now to be just a week.
toothless.
Yeah, a week.
A rubber stamp.
That's all they do. That's all they do. And
I
I
can
know
name
that.
only.
I know that.
And that
And
is
you're
going
so
to hurt the process. That is
you said going to? You said going to?
yeah, it's hurting
It
the
is
process.
and Tyrone
No.
is making a very, very
No.
salient point about the flawed process involved in putting what they call consultation together.
Yeah.
And I will talk later on about some of my observations about these gatherings, which to me has evolved into exactly what they wanted: political meetings.
Like right, yeah.
Political
People are getting
meetings.
down the line, which is, so you said something earlier, Tyrone, about listening to other people. So me right now, one of the issues that I'm like, I'm not really sure. Should we have a dedicated voter's ID card? Is it okay to use your passport? What are we going to use? And so that's one of the things I'm listening to other people and hearing their position, to, like you say, maybe I might be open to some of what I'm hearing, as opposed to my party has decided that this is what it is and this is what we're going to do, which is what many of the consultations seem to be devolving into.
But you see, and right now we're going to shift gears, because I'm going to say some things that might offend a few people. But that is what the truth is. Sometimes it's offensive, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the actions by the I think the actions being taken on by the the traditional opposition, while well intended, but it is not the proper vehicle for that message. And I want them to understand that is why they are not doing any good, and they are working against themselves. They are making the water even more muddy by getting themselves involved in a fist fight about something that should be apolitical and impartial.
Let me tell you, my brother, I made that point to some people last week. And let me tell you, do you know that the fist fight they're getting into is being loved by the other side? They welcome that.
Of course.
Because that is what they've used all throughout. They welcome that.
Yeah.
That is their strength. They
love the environment. It works for them. And yet people who are supposed to have other ideas do not realize that you're
not catching on.
Playing into their hands.
You're not catching on, and they've made the mistake repetitively for many years.
That's right.
And you have the result.
Because of that repetitive mode of action, people have become really demoralized.
That's
and
it.
Disenfranchised.
That's it.
And
that's it.
It's almost completely destroyed the middle ground. I keep telling people that we keep trying to turn a labor right into a workers, or a workers into a labor right. We don't acknowledge that there is a middle ground, that there is a neutral place that two sides can come to together. We can dialogue in that space, because not all issues that we dealing with are political issues. And to me, the political issues that we're dealing with are trivial compared to the facts of life that we have to deal with.
But it is in the interest of the political parties to politicize the issues.
Yes, definitely.
Because that is where the people get lost. That is where the people get lost. And once they get lost in the issues, these political parties are able to manipulate them. So it is in their interest to politicize the issues. That is why like you rightly said, basic bread and butter issues are seen through political lenses. And as a result, once people go down that rabbit hole, the political parties take advantage of them.
They win.
It's on that premise, Tyrone. It's on that premise. And Doc can tell you, I lamented the urgent need for independent candidates in the election. Because I say there is the need for people to rise from the center with no allegiance and illuminate the issues to people in a way that makes it, for want of a better term, user-friendly. So we don't have to put green, blue, yellow, red lens on. We put Dominican lens on. And so we can evolve as a people. We can grow. We can grow as a people. So these political parties now will give the people the respect that they truly deserve. But constantly we're being disrespected. Wow. Doc, you remember I said political parties in Dominica have disrespected Dominicans for far too long. It is
and we have tolerated it.
Yes. It is time, like Tyrone said, we find that middle ground and we let them know that we can move Dominica forward without political lenses. We can do it, but we've surrendered that right by allowing them to politicize our issues, our mental development is politicized. It's either blue or green. An idea is colored, right? You have an idea, you have a thought, you have something, a vision. We are made to color it red. And blue will say it's not good. Color it blue, and red will say it's not good. And you get lost in the process. So when you hear talk, for example, of we want to give assistance to young people to become entrepreneurs. If you are not red, you cannot go to the aid bank and get the money. Right. Because when you go there, they have to find out whether you support red or whether you support blue.
Yeah.
That is the kind of thing, and that is a right of Dominicans to be able to have a fair share and stake in the development of the country and the development of themselves. But the
biggest problem with that is that Dominica stays, like I say, it just stays like it can't.
I don't know if Tyrone can understand Creole,
It stays like a dog just scraping its butt on the ground. It's just, you can't move doing that. You cannot move doing that. And we all hurt because of it. We all hurt because of it.
And by the way, Tyrone, Kashma is my good partner.
Oh, that is my boy.
Hail him for me. That's my good boy.
Man, my brother. Hey, like I do, these guys, they were the ones who inspire me, because I was tired of walking around the house, complaining, my family members. And I decide, well, I find an outlet, and maybe I should use it a little more, because I think it has even made me a little more bold.
But what you
speak on,
what you may not have realized, Tyrone, is what you did, the move that you guys made. This has become a catalyst.
Absolutely.
There were a lot of dormant giants, people who wanted to do stuff. They wanted to see if, in other words, what you guys have done is shown, listen, we can test the water and see there is current in there.
Yes.
There is a space for us in this thing.
Absolutely.
There is a space. People never thought that you guys would have gotten so many votes. Let me tell you something. I take credit, even if I was not literally telling, but I take credit for pushing the idea. I met with so much resistance. People were like, "You crazy? Independent candidate." But it was
shocking. You said this, Mervin, last summer. It was shocking.
Everybody's like, "Where's this guy coming from?"
I can be honest with you that I was really apprehensive about the idea of even participating in the election, because there was the whole idea of no reform, no election, and so on.
Right.
And it's easy to subscribe to certain ideas, because they almost resonate with you, they ring with you, especially when it's something that the people have been calling for a long while. It's easy to subscribe to that. But like I said, I'm a person, I always open to ideas, and after hashing it out with the guys, because the guys will say, "Nah, we should do this," and I was like, boy, I really not feeling and then we sat and we spoke about it, and little by little I start to get, where they coming from, and then after a while I was all in. But I think the reason for that is because I see Moon Sewe as always always having to be there, or always needing to be there. I don't want us to, even if we're talking about um, participating in politics and so on. I think that the people has we have to come out of that mandate, out of that mode of expecting a mandate from a politician.
Absolutely.
We have to give the politician the mandate.
It's from
We
the
have to
bottom,
recognize what we
bottom up.
need.
That's
We
what I
know.
that's what I said
So how
earlier
can we
on.
sit and wait for somebody to come and propose to
That's what
us?
I
Right.
said. We've
You
given them
know,
that. We've given
and
that to
to,
them.
that's why I feel. That's why I feel that Moon Sewe as an organization needs to live on and needs to always be there on this scene. We don't have a right to bear arms to protect our constitution.
Hmm.
So we need to have an organization like Moon Sewe that can activate when it's
Yeah.
time. So even if, say, I in politics and maybe I backslide or something,
Right.
there's somebody there to keep me in check. And it's
And
not
that's
about
what we
friendship.
need.
It's not
And
about
that's what
friendship,
we lost.
And
because
be careful, all right? Be
yeah,
careful. I'll tell you why I say be careful. Because, and I don't know how many of you have been paying attention. I've been a student of this politics, and especially party politics thing. Be careful. And here's why I say that. Every organization or movement which have sought to position itself as, I don't want to use the word watchdog, but as the voice that would keep the heat under their feet.
Right.
There's been a subtle and conniving and um, 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 hidden moves to
Hmm.
demoralize them,
Yes.
to shut them up, because it is, as a matter of fact, I have heard statements coming from the current leadership that the whole objective is to destroy any opposition force. So one has to be very careful. They will use all at their
Anything.
disposals.
Anything.
People who would probably seem to subscribe to the agenda of wanting to be independent and to keep the fire to the feet of these people and all other systems. So there must be a degree of alertness, discernment, and sharpness. You understand? And that is how you gain your respect with people. When you stand firm on principle, and Dominica is your overall objective, and you stay that
Mhm.
course. Anytime you deviate or you pander to the whims and fancies of, because let me tell you, whether Moon Sewe or you as an individual, be, either or both are beginning to get the respect of the current leadership. When you guys were invited to the cabinet room to meet, I watched that with keen interest. I looked at that with keen interest. And I personally, knowing the character of the individual, knew, while seemingly there may have been good intent, the objective is to mute and to
So you're
cause.
saying there's always an objective to mute. There's
Absolutely.
always an attempt to mute,
Absolutely.
one
People
way or
must
another.
people must understand the character. You use the word Tyrone very early up in your preamble, the character of the individual that you deal with, and not lose focus. Because at the end of the day, if we are to get Dominica out of the clutches of who and where and where it is important to ensure that you maintain your independence, maintain your middle ground.
you see, I can tell you a little something, Mervin. I may not be the religious type, although my mother raised me up in the church every Sunday. I would religiously attend
Hmm.
the
Once you're
church.
spiritual, that's what matters. You don't have to be religious.
Yes, very, because I'm going to tell you, there are certain things in life that are an acquired taste.
Hmm.
They are not for simple people.
Hmm.
Simple people will take pleasure in the everyday and the mundane. I would say that there are some people, um, or some elements I would put it like that. There are some elements that can be molded, shaped. You can use it to create other things, and there are some elements that are absolute. They don't change. They don't shape shift.
Mm-hmm.
So I maybe can use here as an opportunity to respond to the the Prime Minister's invitation for us to talk. And while yes, I mean man and man, we can talk, but the shore, the shore, the shoreline, no matter how many waves crash against it, no matter how many hurricanes, the shore cannot abandon its post because somebody has to keep the ocean in check. If the shore abandon its post, the ocean will ride all over the mountain tops because there'll be nothing to stop it. Now it's absurd. Now, like I say, everyone is fashioned by the creator in his own way.
Mm-hmm.
Some people they made from malleable, you know, elements, and some are just made with that divine purpose. I want my people, you see, before I go, Dr. Trippy, I have a story I always to tell to people as I meet them. That I had the best of both worlds. Maybe Mervin can tell you, can attest to that my mother and my father were worlds apart. My grandmother on one side used to come and do the housekeeping, the ironing, the cooking, the washing for my other grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
So when my grandmother on my father's side used to come over and maybe bring her son while she go and do her work. Here is this poor boy end up meeting this girl that maybe in a better, you know,
Mm-hmm.
here I am. So I had the world of color TV and all the thing of milk and all these toys from overseas. And on the other side, I had the pot sham and the river bath and the going and wash in the river and carry water.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at my people, I see
Mm-hmm.
in one set that they have the opportunity to do right or to do better or to lift up people from their positions. And rather than do that, they abuse people ignorance. They 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 use their intelligence and whatever their position to subdue people or to subjugate them. And then I look at the people on the bottom who basically they try to come up to that and emulate that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it's like on both sides you have people who just out of touch with reality, you know.
You
Because
know,
Melissa, I used to go. I remember going to party at Melissa and them house, you know, when I was a child.
Mm-hmm. So
And
you just reminded me of St. Paul, who talks about I have I know a little and I know a lot. I have lived with plenty and I've lived with not so much. But
yeah,
that that gives you a certain way of being able to be in both places, also see the good and the bad,
yeah,
right? It's a
yeah.
very powerful place.
he has a
Because
true
that's what I
appreciation for
telling
both
you
sides.
about
Yeah?
the whole thing of leadership, and I think in that has a huge responsibility
Yes.
because boy, I have so much I want to say, but to articulate it, it's yeah,
You probably need another program where
You,
you can
yeah,
say more.
that's
Say more.
right.
Because
That's right.
I would really
We
like for
want
us
to hear
to
more.
I'd really like for us to spend a few minutes talking about some of the major talking points
Yes.
in that thing,
And what
that
I'm hoping, Mervin, is that I've invited a few
mhm,
other Dominicans to come in and share some
mhm,
of their thoughts. And I
mhm,
want Tyrone to stay with us as each person comes. and they'll share their piece, and then they'll fall off, and other people will come in and will,
Yeah.
allow them to speak, and then we can keep hearing your thoughts on this, because this is our future. And one of the things that irritates me right now to no end is just this kind of idea that you should just sit back and take what you get. Who does that? Where else does that work in your best interest when you allow other people to decide for you?
And it's not subtle anymore, you know. That idea of sit back and take what you get is not subtle anymore. I mean, in times past, it would have been masked, and there would be a covert way. Right now, it's blatant.
Right.
The utterances say that the actions are very blatant.
Which is why I was leading on to what I was just about to say, that I don't like to talk about people.
Right.
Okay? But I have to say, Melissa Skerritt not in no position to be trying to rub what she rubbing in Dominican's face, because she never know what it is to buy milk by the pound. You understand? I used to go parties at your parents' home, and I know these people are very humble people. Very humble people. So when I look at the behaviors, I know that maybe some of it not, it's almost like a person coming from a place of deprivation and wanting to make up for not having.
Let me ask you a question.
And that is not Melissa.
Let me ask you a question, Tyrone. Let me ask you a question.
Yes, brother.
Maybe that will help you stay away from mentioning names. But let me ask you this question. When the slave masters would have taken those of us brothers they consider to be a little more intelligent, or a little more,
you had more capacity, you had more,
and they would have brought us, and they would have brought us into the house.
Yes.
Take us out from sleeping in the cool and brought us into the house. For the most part, those of us who were sleeping in the house, what did we do to our brothers who were out there? Once we got in there, what did we do?
Yeah.
So leadership, political leadership,
as above, so
may not be for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
But sadly, when some people get there,
yeah.
And then as a result, it is just like the leader. I give you some power, I give you more, and I give you more. And right now, you're running riot with the power that I gave you.
Yeah, man. And
but
that's why
good leadership,
that's why
leadership is supposed to, the part where is corriger, is to train appropriately.
But that's why I believe that there should be term limits.
Absolutely.
Because I believe, yes, a person might set out to possess something.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing about when we setting out to achieve or to gain possession, when you possess something, oftentimes it takes possession of you.
Yes.
And that thing that you never had before, right now you become to a point where you cannot do without it.
And that one thing that is the most dangerous thing is power.
It's power.
That is the most dangerous thing. No matter what else that you possess, that may eventually possess you, when it comes to power.
And there's nothing new under the sun. Human beings know this. We know this. I'm not sure why we're acting, confused about it, or, in denial about it. We know this.
But this aspect of what you guys are into requires a whole psychology class, because getting into the mind and understanding who you're dealing with is a total different discussion, because a lot of times you have to understand who you're dealing with and what happens as a result.
Exactly.
When you're dealing with this caliber of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Mr. Bugunu.
Mr. Bugunu.
Hello, Chris.
Hello. Hello, Dr.
How are you? How are you?
I am doing well, Everything is blessed, man.
That's good.
Let me first start with Tyrone, man. Little Tyrone the other day, man. Little Tyrone from Freddie, even in 20.
That was years ago, boy.
But no, in 2018, when I was home, because I used to go by Granny up on Bath Road there, by your auntie up there, and bring every Sunday, bring mascara and ice and everything, handling the family business. And then to go to Mervin, by Merv, long time.
Long time.
It's a long time from Clifton Government School.
That's right. That's right. Don't make anybody believe you were older than me, okay? I was always older than
No, you were of age with Kenty Azio.
No, Kenty a couple of years ahead of me. But look my age people right there.
Hunter.
Doc.
And Kelvin Wallace, all these guys, man. I remember Richmond Valentine.
No, Richmond a couple of years ahead of us.
John Carbon, James Carbon.
Well, John is older than
John is a little ahead of us.
Because I'm the peers of Morrison, Azil, and Coney and them, man.
So you'll be nifty.
Younger. That's right.
Yeah.
So, all right, Chris, I wanted you to come on too and share some of your thoughts about these consultations we say we're having about electoral reform.
Boy, Dr. Triffy, let me explain, man. In everything, there's always a bias, For example, right, I was thinking that if you have a marriage, there's problems in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
The man has friends, the woman has friends, family on both sides. Mm-hmm. And everybody is going to find a way to influence that other party, that other person, as to what they think is best, what they should do. The idea of electoral reform is much bigger. You're dealing with parties, you're dealing with private organizations, you're dealing with all these things. But in life, there's always a mediator. Besides God being your greatest mediator. But there are always people we go to for counseling. Dr. Shufi, you should know that. You're the best at what you do. What is happening with our political system and its reform right now, in my opinion? I've listened to every bit of it. I think there's a mediator. And the mediator is not the voice of the party that the incumbent or the stronger party that was once in opposition, because they have a voice. Because all party, although I lean towards the party that's no longer in opposition and what they're framing, but I don't want to be in support of it, because the people and the democratic right and the future of this thing called reform has to be long after every one of us are gone. So the whole politics of it, I understand both sides. When the Labour Party says, or the New Labour Party or the United World says, the people wanting this, who are the people? So the mediator in that regard are not even some of the private organizations per se, because most of them are leaning towards something. But a mediator is always something new, You Flacco, you check me?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always something new. I heard Merv say, and I wrote it down. Merv said that, and he mentioned about independent candidates, of which, he believes was stellar. I agree, they were stellar, like Flacco. It was good. But at least Merv forgot, and I wrote it down. There was another fresh young party on board. It was late, but because of how the election was called. There are young people involved.
True.
But it's about a process where a program always have to develop. When you want to take care of the needs of people, you have to make sure you're a good father to lead your children. So you better have had some experience, some type of thing, to be. So where I see it as, and I wrote down a few points, right? And I said, first and foremost, voting. Voting, think of the idea of voting, what the four parents fought for, right? Is a residency thing, right? So I went on further to say, residency is like currency for the electorate. The wealth, the why you spend, the value of what is your return. Your return in that aspect might not be current, because you may be dead and gone, but we are thinking of future generations, right? So, and I continue to say this means that one can be a citizen but not be necessarily qualified to vote. Let's get that right.
So you're saying one could be a citizen but not a resident.
Not necessarily qualified. The word qualified.
Right.
Qualified, based on whatever rules we set up.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I wrote, this has been and continues to be a standard practice with, and I research it, with elections and electoral laws worldwide, no matter how you look at it. Residency.
Mm-hmm.
All right, point number 2. Based on me listening to everybody as being part of this whole consultation, Merv, I don't want to take much from you, but you mentioned independent candidates like Flacco, which is still and absolute, that's progressive. But what folks didn't recognize, there was another party in the mix.
Can I ask you a question at this? I don't want to lose the thought because you made a point about this residency issue. I don't want to lose it. Can I ask you a question, Chris?
Oh.
It's a broad question. The whole process of electoral reform, in your view, what purpose should it serve? Should it be a process that is set about to stop people from voting or provide an opportunity to ensure no one is disenfranchised?
So you're putting me, you're talking about chopped and screwed, right? Where you either subtract or you add to a purpose that represent today and future. So let me get to your point. The point you're making is, Merv, you're saying that in my own view, what the process of electoral reform means. And I have it somewhere here where I'm going to tell you what it means, right? I'm not going into the details of what I wrote, but I'm going straight to the point. The reform and modernization process, again, have to do with residency. But every and each citizen of a country should be able, listen to me carefully, don't think of nothing yet, should be able to vote, right? Because you're citizens of a citizen of a country. And if you have residency, right? So how do we do that add and subtraction if you have a dual citizenship? We only get to one point, residency. So may I continue with this? I'm getting to you, Mark.
And then we have to make sure we clearly define what residency means in the context of the Constitution of Dominica.
Is there an existing definition in the
Yes.
Constitution? What does it say? Because I don't know.
And I don't want Chris to lose his point. So, but Chris, go on. We will come to.
We'll come back. Yeah.
When we speak, okay, I've listened to everything, the consultation, but I believe in the point of team unity, which Carlos Charles made, that every Dominican who resides in an area which they intend to vote, you reside in an area where you intend to vote. So you might think, okay, somebody is residing in an area, but remember the intent to vote. So we are talking about constituencies, right? Should vote using a voter identification card. We are getting to a place where I'm going to explain, I'm going to be clear with that. And when Carlos mentioned that, Carlos spoke of voter identification card instead of national ID card. So we are speaking of the age of, not consent, but age to vote, the voting age, which is 18. Every citizen can carry a passport. So you're telling me every citizen with a national ID criteria can go to the polls? So the idea of the national ID card basically is not a privilege to vote. So if voting privileges are going to be extended to citizens who reside overseas, it should be fairly given to all. if voting privileges are going to be introduced, people residing overseas, it should be fairly given to every citizen. Now, not a select few. What we've seen, and we don't want to target the incumbent or the past opposition as to the aspect of what they think. But what I believe that if you're going to make the playing field open, make it open to every citizen.
Well, I have a thought here. I mean, somebody could argue that that it wasn't, that they were not trying to that anybody could do that, like come down to Dominica to vote.
How?
Well, with their own money. One group might say, I just happen to have enough funds to.
I'm going to skip ahead because I know time is limited. The idea of them coming down to vote, where's my last point on this? My last point on this, they must be duly registered and must have been resided and in the constituents in which they intend to vote for a period of 10 years before migrating, prior to migrating. That goes for also, I paid emphasis on economic citizenship. We're talking about the passport holders and those, the CBI program. I said that the economic citizens must reside on the island for at least 10 years before they're able to vote. We're talking 10 years and being able to vote. That is what, in essence, I've been thinking. And when I heard the leader of TUD, Team Unity, said that, I said that is the perfect mediator. Because everybody else that got the voice right now, they're speaking out of a perspective of wanting to benefit in that regard. Now, how can you say that? Because one side talks about the people wants this, the other side talks about the people wants that. When we're not even looking at organizations in Dominica currently, we are looking at new perspective in order for this thing of electoral reform to be transformed and have an impact on future generations and also have an impact on the economic circumstances right now and who is better to lead. Do you know that every June, July, I don't know when folks graduate no more, I've been, around June, July in Dominica, that we have smart people coming out from everywhere? Where are they? Where are young people?
Let me ask you, Chris. When in the foreseeable future do you see the Commonwealth of Dominica stop exporting its population?
Its citizens.
You are talking about citizen and passport again.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I want us to be gentle.
Right.
Because I think we are being placed in a situation where we are under duress. That's how I feel as a citizen of Dominica right now. With that whole thing of electoral reform. Let me explain why. Because the person who we paid $500,000 has told us that electoral reform should be an should be an incremental and ongoing process. Now, have you listened have you witnessed the behavior of our people on a stage where not just us looking, the world looking?
But you're not saying nothing new.
Chris, I don't think we are in the place right now we have not even had enough dialogue to even begin to implement those things. That's how I feel about it.
So now,
and that is why it should be in an incremental. It should be an incremental process, meaning that after every election, we identify what was wrong, Because you see, I'm a stickler for process, you know. Anytime somebody deviate from the process, that is my pet peeve. When you take a side or a perspective and you decide you're going to run with that without reaching what we call a consensus, how are we avoiding the disenfranchisement of people in Dominica? Because I'm going to tell you something here. Depending on the outcome of that electoral reform exercise that we're doing right now, I, as a Dominican living in Dominica, might never partake in elections again, in voting for anybody, because I am not confident that we are in the place we need to be to execute this in a way that will not lead.
That will not hurt us.
Flacco, you have to understand.
Dispassionate. You see, I'm Doc. Let me jump in here to give Tyrone some support. And with all due respect to Chris, I hear you coming from a position of a party political position. You made mention of your leaning, and you made mention of a new party. We have to extract the discussion and let the discussion of political reform stand on its own. Anytime.
I mentioned
anytime.
But I said of the new voice and the new
anytime. You know, and I heard that. Anytime we begin to bring this thing, because when we started tonight, the first thing we spoke about, and I'm sure you heard that, was this thing started on the wrong foot, because the whole coordination, the whole running of this thing was run by Roosevelt Skerritt and the Dominican Labour Party. That already tainted the process.
We are not on the attack with the discussion.
No. Hold on, Chris. So, from what you're saying, you are seemingly now pulling the discussion to the other side. We have to be mindful of the fact that
I see what you're saying.
We have to be mindful of the fact that we have to be mindful of the agendas of these political parties until Tyrone is making the point, until this thing is seemingly pure and clean. We probably are not at the stage where we're ready for the kind of reform that we think we want.
I want to add a little something because
Flacco, give me
have
1
to
second.
leave in a second, okay? So right now, we're asking, where are the young people? Do you know the young people are disenfranchised from the electoral process? They are.
No, Flacco, they're
not. Hold on, bro. I'm telling you, I have lived 45 years in Dominica without living here. And I'm telling you, that is why a parliamentary representative can tell me that money run politics. Okay? The young people have no faith in what's going on. They have disconnected themselves from the electoral process and those in authority. You know what they have done? They have insulated themselves against us. I can tell you, and we talk about, you were saying something earlier, Mervin, about how they have this hidden way of, attack. I know all my defo. I know all. It have chapters of my life that I haven't opened. It have things that I want to say that I have not said. Okay? And I am telling you that the youth we keep calling for are disenfranchised from that process. You know why? Because that process has failed them and their parents. And
it's not campaign
season. Hold on, my brother. Because I was walking through Tarish Pit, my boy. I walked through Tarish Pit. I walked through Gutter. And then I march up into Olympus, into Santa Roma, and all these places there, talking to people. Here I know I don't represent any political party. I represent the youth. I represent what I see on the side of the road every day. Chris, you need to give me a chance.
You gave
See,
No. I
what
think I've listened to you all night. I just wanted in my little 10 minutes.
let me tell
Chris,
you,
1 second. Let him finish up, and then I'm going to give you some time to
All right.
this
clearly expound.
disenfranchisement of the youth is what has we say that we surrender, or we almost, it's like we surrender, you know.
Yeah.
It's like we surrendered.
Hmm.
Because you know what the youth and them see? They see that all of these political devices belong to the politicians and their chosen set of people, and we have our ways to survive. And you know what happening? You see our ways of surviving, it don't really even have nothing to do with them fellas. So let them fellas do what they're doing, and let us just do what we're doing.
I concur.
And they
You
also
understand?
separated their
I agree.
creativity and their juice for
I
Dominican.
agree.
So the youth don't have no hope in that electoral. Chris, I would love for you to be in Dominica, you know, and to walk around and to ask some of the youth and them what they think about the electoral process.
Well, I was there in 2018 for 8
some
months.
of these
You're
people,
right. You're correct.
they don't care.
You're correct.
They don't care for what's going on.
You're right. You're right.
So I am saying, before we can even get to the place of talking politics, we have to start to come real. Because like I tell you, and I don't telling you that because my child tell me or somebody else tell me, you know, I grew up watching my parents subscribe to that, and it failed them.
That's right.
It failed me at 45 years. It failed me.
I repeat that over
So
and
what
over.
must I tell my children?
Party politics has failed Dominica. It has.
What must I tell
It has.
my nephews?
You're right, brother.
Have faith in that.
You're right.
When I already see where it's going.
Party politics has failed the country, it has failed the people, and it's on that premise I made the point that they need to be.
I appreciate what you say.
Rising.
Don't get me wrong.
Mervin Flacco.
Okay, Chris, let's let Chris defend himself right here. Go ahead, Chris.
Mervin Flacco, I really did not come here to hear the vibes of any.
I think they've been burned. That's the trauma response they're having right there.
Right.
Can you express your thoughts without mentioning parties?
Right.
That might be what that might have.
We're looking for solutions.
Yes.
You know, I told you, man, for many years, man. Afghanistan, Iraq, everywhere, in Korea, everywhere. But there's always a solution. And when you speak, you do not speak of the aspect of history or current. You have to speak from an avenue where look at it 50 years from now. All right. What could you bring to the table 50 years from now? Remember, I'm the outside voice looking in, you know. I'm not speaking on no party behalf either, you know, Flacco.
Also, you tried to make us believe.
Maybe.
Merv, don't hit me below the belt, man.
No, that's above the belt.
So, okay, this is what I think personally about the current list of as far as the election process goes, the electoral reform goes. I think the current list should be cleansed from all non-resident and dead names before overseas voting privileges are granted. You hear that again?
That's vague. That what you just said there is vague. It is vague. You need to be more specific.
Also, when you
say the current voters list should be cleansed of all non-residents, you said, right?
Non-resident and dead.
Dead.
Guys, I'm going to leave all your effort. Well,
that's sad. That's sad, man, Tyrone. That's sad, man, Tyrone.
We hope you can pop in. We leave at 10.
My little one is out and I need to go and
pick up. Yes.
Forgive me.
I want to tell you thank you so much. Okay.
I look forward to engaging you again, man.
An opportunity to talk definitely. To you again for a long time. Yes, sir.
Definitely. Thank Whenever you're ready, just give me a shout and I'll be there.
And hail up Freddy for me, man.
I'll do that. Yeah, take it easy, man. Love you.
Yeah, bless.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, Chris.
Yeah, so I was talking about the cleansing of the list that every organization, every party talking about. And, you know, again, I listened to every part of the consultations over the days. And I think Carlos Chas, Mervin, don't judge me. But what makes more sense to me is the cleansing of the list of the dead names that are on the list. Or cleansing of the list in all due respect of entirety before any new non-resident or residents can go back and register to vote?
Okay, let me comment on that. For me, it is a no-brainer that dead people's names should be taken off any voters. That is a no-brainer.
Yes, I'm wondering why that even still is a
That's
thing.
a process that should engage the registry and the electoral office. That is a no-brainer. My concern, and we have to discuss this thing carefully, I do not think any process of sanitization of the voters list should lead to the disenfranchisement of any born Dominican.
Agreed.
We must be careful. People fought and died for their rights to vote. I believe while there is need for a reconfirmation or a re-registration, if you want to call it that, the most important thing is to put checks and balances in place to ensure that and those things may require constitutional reform, not just electoral reform, because a lot of the things that we've spoken about will require constitutional reform, because people will challenge those reforms in court under the Constitution, and they will eventually win. Any action you take that hinges on infringing people's constitutional right will lead you or land you in legal problems. So any action as it relates to purging, cleansing, cleaning of the voters list must never lead to disenfranchising Dominicans.
And that should not be the intention. That should not be
That
the
should
aim.
not be the intention, and it should not be the end game.
Not be the aim.
It should not be the end game. My brother, you living out of Dominica, okay? And you may have been out of Dominica for 5 consecutive years. There are arguments for taking that off. There are arguments for keeping that. I'm not a legal expert. I am I don't know. I didn't go law school. What I'm saying is, let the legal people sit down from all sides of the spectrum and ensure that when this final thing is put together, nobody is disenfranchised.
At least we're moving. Hopefully, we move more towards allowing more people.
Merv, I like that. Merv, I like that.
To exercise their rights.
Merv, what you just said.
Let me cap it off and then I'll shut up.
Yeah, I like that.
How do you tell me after Maria, Dominicans who living in Europe, United States, and other parts of the world were the main contributors towards the redevelopment of Dominica and bringing people's livelihood back to life, and they do that on a regular, remittances from a significant part of Dominica's economy. And you're telling me that you're telling these people that because they have not lived in Dominica for 5 years, that you take them off a voters list?
You're speaking of the laws and the Constitution. I'm fully in agreement with you, Mervin.
Put checks and balances in place to ensure that they either have to come to Dominica within a period of time or something has to happen. Let the legal people do that. But do not let any process lead to the point where born Dominicans are removed from the voters list.
Let me ask you that, Merv. Merv, let me ask you that. So do you believe that people who are removed from the list, like the dead names are gone, and people who wants to come home to vote should come home to reconfirm? Because absentee ballot is a different thing. You could send an absentee ballot to a registered citizen, but if you are no longer on the list because you have lived out after 5 years, matter of fact, let me reframe that. What do you think should happen to the current Constitution as far as should a citizen be always a citizen? And because I thought that it's okay, there should be no limitations on it. You coming home except to re-register. But I also think that, and I wrote it down, that you should contribute to the Dominican Social Security, and they can receive mail ballots. I would not have to travel to Dominica to vote. And I also spoke of citizens who wish to reside overseas and still vote in Dominica, register with and declare their earnings and pay taxes on those earnings to the Inland Revenue Division. And through Social Security, Inland Revenue, there's a process by which it can happen easy. You understand? It doesn't have to be the same.
So you asked me a question. Let me answer that. At the same time, we shouldn't make the measures so stringent that indirectly it forces them not to be able to vote.
I got you.
It should always be a system set up where you do not disenfranchise them.
It's easy to vote.
That's right. The point I'm making now, if you're telling me that to re-register, I don't believe there should be a re-registration. I believe there should be a reconfirmation. You are on the voters list. We can verify through your birth paper or whatever it is that you are born Dominican. You were on the voters list already. Now, if you were never on the voters list, that's a different thing. If you were never on the voters list, I personally believe you have to go home to register, fresh registration. But if you were already on that voters list, I do not see why there should be things put in place to take.
The point you haven't targeted is residency.
But residency, and I was looking, I thought I had it here.
No, Merv.
That residency word is going to be important.
Not residency overseas or residency Dominica, residency per constituents, per county.
What is constitutional residency?
Yeah, but that is, I thought I had it with me. But if I remember very clearly, and I don't have it with me, but if I remember very clearly, residency does not necessarily mean physical. In the Constitution, I think in the Constitution, it speaks to intent. It speaks to intent, and I stand corrected on that. But
that is going to need a lot of. So I think the people need to be educated on that. You know, we have to educate ourselves, but that's an important.
But Doc, correct me if I'm right. Is there a process by which, if you have your green card or your passport, your U.S. citizen, that you can lose it if you're not here after a certain time, or if you're not paying
the green card, but not your citizenship.
Not your citizenship. So if you're a citizen of Dominica, that is fine. And what is Mervin is saying, that you should be able to take part, especially if you're in the practice of the needs and benefits for a family back home in the country. Mm-hmm. My point is, we are talking about residents who are able to vote that would come to Dominica and vote in different constituencies. That is where I believe the voter ID card would state the constituency, only one constituency where we should vote, or only, and we should also shorten the amount of constituencies we have.
Let's not chew on too much, Chris. Let's not chew on too much here. Yeah. Let's stick with one point. We're going on different things here, and we have not dealt thoroughly with one particular thing. The idea of constituency changes and so on is a whole different discussion. But as it relates to the process, I am saying, without having the as is defined in the Constitution before me, the whole term residency, any process that is going to lead to disenfranchising people, it is wrong. The process should be encouraging, creating an opportunity.
Nobody have been disenfranchised.
Hold on. No, I didn't. No, hold on.
2019 election.
Hold
Nobody.
Chris, I didn't say that. What I said is, any process that will eventually lead to that is what I'm saying, should be looked at very carefully, because I do not support any move to disenfranchise any born Dominican.
You mentioned about disenfranchisement.
I have a question.
Dr. If you want quick. I want people listening to understand the idea of disenfranchisement and coming down in Roseau Central to vote, because your voter ID card states that you have to vote in Roseau Central, but not the idea of you being disenfranchised.
Chris, let's step it down from that. So the broad picture is ensuring that the person is able to vote.
That Dominicans, so we start with the idea
now, Chris,
Dominicans should be able to vote.
Now coming down to what?
Yeah. You cannot fix that problem without the residency.
Hold on, Chris.
Constituents
so we're coming down.
We're coming down to that. Mm-hmm. When we get to the point where a determination has to be made as to where you vote, to ensure we eliminate the possibility of you voting in 2-3 different constituencies, that is where we talk about whether we need a national ID card or voter's ID card, or where you register to vote. So we can come down to that specific And I agree with you that measures must be put in place. And that is why I mentioned checks and balances. Measures must be put in place to ensure that you eliminate any possibility of I coming down to vote in Cottage constituency and also vote in Portsmouth constituency.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you on that. But that aspect of it cannot be achieved if I am not on the voters list. So let me help you. Let us take care of the voters list first and ensure that because for you to lay claim, Chris, to a voter's ID card, to lay claim to a voter's ID card, you must be a registered voter first. You must appear to be a registered voter. So let us deal with the voters list.
Agreed. But hear me out. Hear me out.
Let's hear you, Chris.
None of that can happen unless we deal with campaign finance reform.
Chris,
well, so that's okay. Wait.
You're rushing the thing.
Okay, wait. Both of you, wait a while. I see where Chris is going, right? But I do believe that every Dominican, you should have your right to vote, right?
True.
And then the question of residency must be clarified constitutionally. Whatever the Constitution says, that's what we follow. Now, if we have bribery and cheating, which is what we have, but we're being told, well, whatever legal cases, said, no, it's not bribery. If I'm paying your ticket for you to leave Guadeloupe and come down to Dominica to vote, for me specifically, that's kind of hard. With that piece, I see that the reform that Sir Byron is trying to address by saying there should be, campaign, some sort of campaign financing, is that a limit, or that there's a group fund of some sort that he suggests, that all of the parties kind of maybe are on a level playing field? Is that what you're hearing with that?
Dr. Chiffy, let me ask you, if you hold a passport to a country, it means you're a citizen, right?
Right.
We have many passport holders out there who are supposed to belong to a CBI program, a citizen by investment.
The question. Mm-hmm.
But the citizen by investment, let's look at the word investment. We do not know who's investing.
I have a controversial statement to make in that regard.
That's another one. I heard in one of the
consultations. I have a controversial statement to make. It may be controversial, but
so I'm asking both of you. If we have passport holders overseas who are citizens, you have a passport, you're a citizen, but you have not invested, is where it comes from my point about taxation and revenues and declaring your earnings and Social Security. How, the administration, you're going to have to figure out, or the people involved, how to deal with that, because there's no way you're just holding a passport and you're a citizen and you've not had any investment or have not resided in the country 10 years prior at least. Laws could be changed, but it's 10 years prior. Even if you're a resident or you're birth Dominican, you should not be voting in Dominica unless 10 years, or at least there has to be a timestamp on how you vote. You cannot just think that you are paying taxation to another government that you're taking care of it, whatever development and is, infrastructures and everything. And then you think there are people that survive in the country, and because you send them a barrel or after Maria, you help. It's a disaster. Everybody does help everywhere in disaster.
That's why I mentioned, Chris, there should be checks and balances. That's why I said there must be checks and that's what I was referring to. Whether you want to put a time frame by which you have to be in Dominica.
You have to.
So I said I'll leave that up to the legal minds from all sides of the spectrum. There must be checks and balances. But here's what I'm going to say that may sound controversial, and I stand by that. And that may require constitutional reform. Voting in Dominica should belong only to born Dominicans.
Well,
born in Dominica. So you may have acquired citizenship through economic citizen program. That doesn't give you the right to vote. And
election. I don't agree.
Yes, you're right. I respect your right to disagree. I'm just remember I said earlier on, I'm going to make a statement that may be controversial. With the exception of you, Chris, have a child that was born in the US, that's fine. You're Dominican because you are my father, but I was born here. I'm a Dominican by virtue of you. But anybody who acquired economic citizenship in my view, should not be allowed to vote in Dominica.
That diaspora question is
That,
going to
for
bite
me,
us. That diaspora question is going to bite us. Can the citizens of Dominica in the diaspora who bought their citizenship, can they vote or whatever it is? So right now you can go home
No.
tomorrow and vote.
But
Can
when you
they
say,
vote?
Dr.
That's what-
Chiffy,
when you say citizens
I
in
have
the
lived
diaspora,
there for almost 30-some years.
Uh-huh.
Doc, let me tell you, Doc, I don't feel I have the right, even if I've helped. Man, you know how many times I've helped in Dominica after disaster. I don't think I have the right to vote, but I think if I go down and I re-register after a 10-year period, I think, and I declare my earnings, where I could declare my earnings that whatever I make through the inland revenue, that once they see, let's say I'm making $500 a week, right? And let's say that's $2,000 a month. Tell them that I'm making that. Even if it's 2.2%, I have to give, if I want to register, I have to register that, and then I have to contribute that in order for me to register.
Well, let me ask you this. How I'm not familiar with that, with the answer, right? As when you compare that to other countries, what is the rule with that? Say I'm an American, yeah, and I went to Dominica and lived for 15 years. Yeah? And I come back here. Can I vote? What's the process?
Your Social Security through Medicare, whatever, have to be taxed. I was in Korea a certain time.
No, you didn't. But you didn't answer my question. If me, I can vote here, right? If I decide I go home to my other place where I decide I'm going to be there for 10 years, and I come back up here, can I vote?
can you vote where?
Because
In the
the
US.
process of which you receive, that's what I'm saying. If you have, the only reason you'll go back home is because you have a retirement.
It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter for whatever reason. Okay, so as an American, I can vote.
If
right?
you home and you stay, if you go to Dominica
If
and stay 20 years,
if I go to Bali for 20 years
and you come back here,
and I come back, can I vote?
Yes.
Yes, because the only way you're going to be registered to vote is because they're going to go through a process of knowing that you have an address of residency, and there's taxation period based on residency.
No, but Chris,
You're missing my question. You're missing what I'm asking.
Doc, for example, if you go, say for example, you go to Dominica now and you're there, you're down there for 20 years. Anytime election is called in the US and you request your absentee ballot, you don't even have to come back. You can get your absentee
ballot. You're talking about an absentee ballot.
But the bottom line, Chris, is there is a process put in place to allow her to vote, no matter where
even if I said it was 20 years.
she's out there.
So we have
that is what exists here. That is what she's asking.
So based on history,
does her right to vote?
That's fine. But based on history, it should be an open playing field to every citizen.
When you say history, what do you mean? Based on what history?
You speak about the past elections where you think it favored residents that for the incumbent. You said that. You understand? And so if it favored them, I'm saying that it is okay for all of us to go down and vote, but I understand what you mean by the process of laws and constitution. Will it be a law that the law says that if you go down and you're in Dominica, you go visit, for maybe a couple of days before the election, that's law, But constitution is set in place that you have to be there for, you understand? So can you not vote because you've been overseas for 5 years and you come down and there is I don't know if it's in the 90 days before registration or
there is. Let me tell you, Chris, don't mix registration with vote, with your right to vote.
Voting right.
If you are going to register to vote, there's a difference. If you are going to register in a particular constituency, the mandates. Hold on, Chris.
You're not getting it. You're not getting it. There's never been a concept of dual citizenship until you migrate. Dual citizenship means.
I'm not talking about dual citizenship, Chris. That's not what I'm talking about.
But I'm getting to the agreement with you.
Hold on. What I'm saying is, let us not mix the matters here. If you have someone whose name is on the voters list already, That is different from someone who's going to register to vote in a particular constituency. The requirements / criteria for registering to vote, the mandates are different as it relates to you being already on the voters list. That is what you should not mix that. One who is already on the voters list, it is more difficult to take them out as against someone who's registering to vote in another constituency or first time.
Right.
The requirements are different. And
Okay,
I am saying here,
Doc, let me just say this short.
I am saying
Okay.
here,
He's speaking about
Go ahead,
if you're
Chris.
already on the voters list, right? It's going to be more difficult. But if you're on the voters, I've been on the voters list since the late 80s, early 90s. Merv, you think I feel that I have the right to vote in Dominica?
it's
But
not
that's
whether you
your
feel. It's not
position.
whether,
That's
Chris, it's
just
not whether
your-
you feel.
your
It
feeling.
is not whether you feel. At the end of the day, that right has not been taken away from you. You may feel, you know what? Hold on, Chris. Hold
Yeah,
on.
One second.
go ahead.
You may feel that, hey, I haven't lived here long enough for me to be for me to go down and vote. That right should not be taken away from you. Now, that is where I spoke about putting the checks and balances in place.
Mervin Paul, I have
Hold
to
on.
go with feelings. I have to go with feelings.
Process and rules and laws.
Feelings have to be separated from what is established law and established in the Constitution.
Merv, not
Chris,
when you look into reform.
hold
But
on.
the word reform,
Okay, hold on, Chris, hold on. Let's not mix matters. If you want to reform, I will go back and say what I said. I am all for reform towards making the process more efficient. However, if the process of reform is going to end up eliminating people, Dominicans, disenfranchising Dominicans, and taking away their rights to be able to vote, it will be a flawed process.
I want to say something.
It should be a process that seeks to give more people the opportunity to vote, but
I want to say something.
balances in place to ensure that people do not take advantage of that right that you've given to them, because with every right comes responsibility.
where
That's
do you
it.
put the forward
It-
slash
Chris,
with reform and
what I
modernization?
think many people, for many reasons, and if we're being honest, it's because in large measure the Labour Party has been able to use monies to cream, I'm going to say cream, but to get people from the diaspora to go home and vote. So that we understand that that's a problem, right? So we've got to find a solution to that problem.
Put the checks and balances in
But
place.
the solution, in my view, honestly, ought not to be to just, like just remove you.
Take them out.
Because does that mean
Put the
we have
checks
to
in
find a
place.
way?
Yes.
Yeah, you got to put a check in place. You got to put a check in place to
ensure that no one group or
make
one
sure
party takes
But
advantage.
nobody takes
both of you,
advantage of
Dr.
that.
Chief is talking about solutions. This is my point all night. But
Yeah.
you cannot make solutions. There can be no solution the way it's being done right now, unless you have an outside. That's why Byron involvement was okay.
The
but
process.
you don't think Byron single-handedly.
Painted right now, yeah.
No, listen to me carefully. Him single-handedly should not be chosen by the prime minister. I think there should have been an outside, because we're trying to reform. And the way it is right now in Dominica, everybody's partial. So there should be a body that would have been chosen, through the concept of every one of them that are doing the consultation.
I'm with you on that.
Like a jury, you pick in a jury.
I'm with you on that. There are very few sole commissioners of anything, because
No, man, one man cannot
that's
make.
already problematic.
But Doc, you would agree with me that there have been a number of consultations and a number of groups and all of those things. And we are at the point where we have Dennis Byron.
Mm-hmm.
Let us not seek
It's already there.
You're right. Let's
already
take
there.
it. Let us take it and let us dissect it and look at it and see what we can take to make work for us.
To
and
make
what
work better.
what is not going to work for us, we can continue to
Merv,
work.
you cannot use political parties in Dominica or organization in Dominica to dissect it.
Chris.
Chris, so you're asking for us to scrap that and go back and start the process?
No. I'm asking for to use it.
Hold on.
I'm asking to use it.
So why don't you allow me to finish what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, we have it. There are very good points in it that we can use. Those that we cannot find common ground on, and we figure it's not probably in our interest, we can continue the incremental process. But there are good things in that document that we can begin to use to work, because this thing has been a sore point for decades. And if we have to go back and rehash the whole process again,
do not rehash it. So I think Dr. Byron's report.
So we have already established
that it started.
1 second, Chris. Chris, 1 second. I'm going to give you time to talk.
Okay. We have already established that it may have been flawed in how it started, and it should not have been a one-man commission and all of that. We know that, we agree. There's some commonality here, but in the document, are there things that we can begin to work with to refine the process? The answer is yes. If yes, let us start the process and let us go, and incrementally we will work on it. Now, just before I shut up, let me say here, Chris, let us not confuse the discussion, because this thing it rolls into the subtopics. But let us deal with it piece by piece, because I suspect we will have to come back to deal with election campaign, funding,
question.
So let us deal with that. If we're talking about qualifications for being on the registration list, or what qualifies you to be able to vote and to be registered, whether we agree with re-registration or reconfirmation, let us deal with that, because we cannot chew on all of that tonight.
Okay, let's do. I agree. Dr. Chief, you should have the program said we're in a 5-part or whatever. But I want to.
This is a big issue, and I do appreciate Tyrone's point that let's take it piece by piece. We don't have to do all of it right now.
Incrementally,
giving us a big task.
So can we just start with the Byron report, and then next time, because the Byron report, like Mervin said, the particulars and the way it was done from the prime minister, whatever, you might have issues, but I think getting how they call that man that deal in the Trump case, the special counsel.
Yeah.
You always have to find a special counsel, somebody who's impartial towards knowing. But I think it should be done at the point it is. There should be other people attached to his, final say. That are not basically living in Dominica, because we already know what Dominicans.
But isn't that why they have the observers as part of the consultation? Chris, what I'm saying is the Byron report is with us. They've brought in observers from the OAS, from CARICOM, from Commonwealth. They are in Dominica now. So at least give that to them. Give that to them. Right. Let us be careful here that we're not sounding like we just prepare to rip up the entire thing and throw it. Give that to them. They've brought in independent observers to listen, first of all, to read the document and to listen to the discussion.
Well, there's some independent
observers. 1 second, Chris. You're gonna get time.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're gonna get time.
So let us wait and see what these people come up with, and let us see if they are saying scrap that document. It's not good, or there are things in the document that you guys can immediately begin to implement. And let us hold the fire to the feet of those responsible for the implementation. And let us start the process, because all the bickering, and Tyrone made the point, all the bickering and all the, the noise gets us nowhere, and we will end up having, if we're not careful, we will end up having another election without electoral reform. Because you know what will be said? I commissioned Sir Dennis Byron, the report with all of us. We had consultation.
They're saying it already.
We couldn't come to an agreement, and therefore I have to call election because we couldn't agree. And that would be a subtle ploy to suck us again into another election.
They're already saying so that they're giving them electoral reform, and they're against that.
Merv, you telling me you telling me be back with my wife after I've cheated. The CCJ.
No.
The same observers.
No.
Have been there before Byron. There was reports made before. Listen, I'm getting to a point. Before Byron, that made, and it's documented in black and white, that we could have also followed pattern. We never followed this pattern. The people have been saying something. Merv, anything you say, anything I say, it doesn't even matter. Where is the Electoral Commission, the sole body of the governance of the electorate?
Doc, wasn't listening to us early, man. We spoke to
I
that.
We started on that premise. That process is flawed.
It's already flawed. We spoke to that. We dealt with that early on. We said
but it's happening. It's flawed because of the way it's happening.
No, we
but
spoke
it's
to
happening.
that.
Umbrella.
It's flawed, but it's happening.
We spoke to that. But what I'm saying is, having recognized that the Electoral Commission is right now, they lost.
Yeah.
They're nowhere in the process. Fine. We know that, and we know who we're dealing with. We know why that is being done. But I believe we should call their bluff. We have the report. The report has some good points, some good platforms we can use. Let us call them to start the implementation immediately. There are issues in there that can be put to work immediately. The rest of it, we can work on it incrementally.
I want to support you on that, and because you're correct. But I don't think we should try to bring that message to them. I think with the message you're stating or you're mentioning, it has to be brought to the people. What we're saying tonight, the people have to be listening. And where does the people in every constituency?
And how do we bring that to the people? What is your recommendation?
Like these people make sense. And we figure. So I think we should, even at this moment, stop the reports of from whatever side says what and how and when. But I think as we speak, we should bring message that the people, the people where we grew up amongst, can say, you know what, Mervin and Chris and Dr. Chiffy was on tonight, and I think they're making sense. Let's talk to each other now, this neighbor right there, and see, these people, we have to listen to them more. Or, we believe that is what can help in the climax of all this thing, that we could go to our parish or village council, spread the word that these people really making sense. That's what we should lead on.
Bro, let me tell you, the elected officials we have, the people we have elected, we should get the people who elected them to say, listen. And that is why I believe these consultations are, a lot of it is a sham, though. Yeah. I'm telling you, because the people who this thing is being held, and the average man on the street doesn't have a grasp and an understanding.
That's a powerful
of the nitty-gritty of that thing. So it's still going to end up where a selected few going to make the decision for the majority.
You want to know what I think? What I'm hearing a lot is the word disenfranchisement. And I think that's what the common man is going to hear. That's been ringing a lot, the disenfranchisement bit. I'm hearing that a lot.
Look at what happened in Portsmouth. Look at what happened in Portsmouth. You call that a consultation on electoral reform?
I know, no.
That was a political meeting.
It was a rally. Mm-hmm.
Right? People come in there and feel like, and Labour this, and my Prime Minister this.
But I think what we're doing tonight, do you see I was going to say that in therapy, when you're in say in a family session, you hear the dynamic and you get a sense of what's happening in the house. So even just what we're doing tonight is a tiny peep into the noise that, I mean, it is to be expected, but you bring a powerful point. You said this, Tyrone said it too. It's about consensus. Where can we start to agree?
That's it.
And we use that as a through line to move forward. We cannot agree on everything. We are not going to.
We will never.
We are too polarized.
That's right.
So start on the things that we agree and use that as a little thread.
And that is the premise. That's right. That is the platform. So let us extract from that document the commonalities, the things that are workable and applicable. And let us tell them, okay, there are 220 points in this document. We agree on 120. We want them immediately. Let us go. Let the Electoral Commission be given that independent mandate to go ahead. And we say, take the money from the Treasury and go ahead and implement those. The rest, if it means we have to get another commission, a free-form commission, to review it again with the intention of getting it implemented in the next year or two, then let us do that. But let us start the process. Because
that's how you make progress.
Do you truly think that some of these politicians, if not all of them, really want electoral reform?
No.
When the system and the process has worked to
But
their
at the very
advantage,
least, something like a voter ID card can work,
you
right?
understand? The
Something
current
like a
system
voter
has
ID
worked
card, you can
to their
move forward
advantage.
with that.
Right, their current system has worked to their advantage. You think they really want to take that away from themselves when they've been able to buy elections and give people envelopes under the cover of that and do all those things? No, they don't want that. So it is we, the people, who now have to say there are 10 platforms in this report that is good for us. It's a start. Let us go. These 10 platforms are re-registration, campaign election reform, blah, 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 blah. Let us go with those. And then the rest, we can now say, let us review them with a view of implementing them later. But
because that's how you make progress. That's how you make progress when you have a big task.
Right.
You start where you can win. Where we both can win.
Dr. Chiffy and
Let me ask you a question, Chris. Do you really think, because you were away when Doc and I were talking about that, do you really think that fiasco and that for want of a better magie that happened in Portsmouth there was a consultation on electoral reform?
Before that, I listened to a guy I grew up with, Olemi, doctor, I don't know if he's a doctor, but Gerard Jajak. I listened to people on the other side. I think that they have the right to express their view. I think that if you've lived long enough, you're going to understand that is what incumbents do, because people are trying to stay in office. They have people working in every sector. And these people think that politics is about not the victimization part, but about staying in office to continue to gain. But we do not have that. We have people that are in office that, in my view, in opinion, they have gained too much and much more, no longer willing to work through their own process of going to school and, teaching hard work and whatever. They think politics is a job. They think politics is like a career, and so I don't want to talk about what they did down there, because it sounds to me like it's election season, like it's campaign.
Talk about it, because that is what is being used to make people believe that we are consulting with people. My brother, the farmer who we will look to go and hustle him to vote on election day, does he truly understand what is going on now and what's being discussed? The fisherman, right? The housewife who's at home.
It's a lot of garbage, honestly. It's a lot of garbage being spoken.
And I'm saying, those of us who have the opportunity to read this thing and understand it have a responsibility to now break it down to these people with a view of getting them energized, getting them empowered. That's the word I'm looking for. Empowered to decide, okay, garçon, too long, nous kay vote. Et puis, nous t'en moun mo ka vote. Si we took no moun mo asiba isa, we have to begin to hear that kind of language and let them agree and let us move with brother man. As long as we stay bickering and the opposition call people to the streets.
Merv, there was a match. There was a match on Wednesday, I think.
And we're going to be ending in a few minutes.
Doc, just give me this real quick. There was a match going on, and two people who are working under the government, and a few of my family in Portsmouth and everything, I speak to them all the time, and I speak to friends in Roseau, everybody, them young boys like see grow up. All of them are telling me the same thing. She tell me, Chris, I don't have nobody selling me barrel from diaspora now. So if I go match, how I gonna lose my temporary job? That's what two of them girls told me. Other people in my Portsmouth, in our community, Portsmouth, told me, Chris, we didn't vote last time, We just believe we're right now, Reggie and Ian and them. We didn't vote for them, but we just didn't vote because we didn't know. But even in Cottage, they're telling me the guy that they like him and everything, but they won't vote for him next time because of who's in charge and what is going on. So listen, I just want to end by saying this.
Chris, make me laugh. I try to figure out where what you say fits in, but anyway, go ahead.
No, what I'm saying fits in. Because, Merv, on the day another party have organized a match based on electoral reform or whatever, you have people in my inbox telling me they wish they could go match, which is a process and democratic right to, if you find something is wrong. And, the voting rights is deep. And so for them to be telling me that, I'm telling you that there are probably more people at home that are leaning more towards what the order, like we saying that what the last opposition saying, what everybody is saying besides the incumbent, but they're scared of not doing so or speaking out because of victimization. So I'm getting to this point I want to make. How do you get away from or change people's mindset as far as how they could stand up for what is right for themselves and their future generations, their children, from a mindset of not being victimized? How do you attract people on the idea of electoral reform when the incumbent and even the party they may not favor, the last opposition, is speaking the truth? How do you change people's mind?
Chris,
How do you go about doing that?
Chris, let me tell you something. I will say it again, and maybe that I'll use that as my closing comments. Until maybe, I don't know if you wanted to read some of the comments of the people, but let me say that.
I know, right? We'll read a
Chris,
few comments, maybe
Chris,
3 comments, and then we'll
let me say that quick. Let me say that quickly. Chris, it is about empowerment, empowering people and information. And I've said it before. One of the issues we have in Dominica is Dominicans do not know how to
consume information.
We have a responsibility now to take that type of discussion to the power brokers in the various hamlets, the chairman of the village council. That is where the electoral commission comes in. They should be engaging the chairman of the village councils, the chairman of the sports organization, the people who have direct contact with the grassroots people. So they can get a true appreciation of what is contained in there. Not only that, you should extract the more contentious issues like voter registration, cleaning the voters list, diaspora voting, campaign finance reform. Extract the more contentious issues and take those issues to the grassroots people. Let me finish. You asked me a question. Let them discuss it dispassionately. When you hold those consultations chaired by Levi Peter or with a tie and Francine Barron, who the person in Capuchin don't know, what they see is a Labour Party thing.
So we have to politicize me.
So 1 second, Chris.
God is doing the same thing you're saying.
Chris,
who's not a known political aspect?
Chris, all I am saying in relation to your point you made earlier on is that political parties has failed us in the past. That is a different discussion. You asked a question, I'm responding to it.
But TUD is not a political party. It's a movement.
Chris, you can call it what you want. Let me finish what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, that is why I believe those so-called consultations are flawed, because the discussion is not reaching those who are going to be most impacted by whatever final decisions are taken or made. And that is why I believe the Electoral Commission should have taken its rightful position and take the discussion to the hamlets. Invite the power brokers in the various communities. That is how you empower them. Let me tell you, while I admire the opposition taking people to the streets and so on, that colors electoral reform discussion. It paints it blue, just like Skerrit and them is painting it red with the way they go in with the process. What I'm saying is, you have to seek to extract people from these party political affiliations and colors and let them realize these things we're talking about are issues that will ultimately have an impact on you when you go to the polls. And so therefore, that is what I'm talking about. So empowering people to be able to understand. Have you ever heard any of those discussions discussed in Creole?
I know.
No Creole discussion.
Yeah. But Merv, you're gonna have to put some money
together
and send down for a team of people.
You understand what I'm saying?
To go do something, man.
When you go take the discussion to a place like Granby or Carib territory, Kalinago territory, you cannot go and discuss all these big terms. You have to break it down in Creole so people can
absolutely. And in like the local language,
it's gonna take gas, Merv. It's gonna take gas. It's gonna take water. So let's put something together, man.
Well, let's review a few comments before we leave for tonight. I think this is, I wanted to talk about this because you got to keep talking all the way to the end of things, as opposed to your first, when hot water fall on your skin, you're going to start screaming, but sometimes if you stay under the hot water, you get accustomed to it. Yeah. But I'm saying saying that to say that these conversations are tough and they're hard. And we've created a culture where it's even hard to say, I disagree. So we have to keep talking more and more about this. This is a big hot potato, and with several layers, so many different parts of it. And so the more people who can talk, we don't just need to depend on, the Labour Party really is running these consultations. I mean, people need to educate, like you're saying, Mervin. Go do the work. All of these other groups in the community with their own interests, go educate people. Go talk about it.
And that is not the job of the political party, because it will taint it. That is
It's
the job
not.
of the Electoral Commission, to have independent people.
Well,
Merv, I have to come back to you. Merv, I can't give you fire, tonight there. Because, Merv, you're talking about a party that is led, just like the IPO, that's led by majority of the people who are in the incumbent that are really running the show.
At the end of the day, they are the Electoral Commission. At least there's a semblance. Of independence. So it's best you have the semblance of independence. And
Merv, you want me to give it a soul, Jamie? I think.
No. Don't give me soul,
Jamie. I think it's time not for mutiny. It's not time for mutiny, but it's time for what happened last week or whenever it was, where people, even if it's the 5 people because it's not about the party, but it's about the people who are standing up, and also the incumbent, who have people on the media that have to continue to do this debate until the Electoral Commission get the message. And then, because everybody got to have a side, we know the incumbent fighting to stay in power. We know there are people trying to go and get in power. We don't want the electoral process, the reform, to be that part of who's trying to get in power, who's trying to stay. So when you speak of the people, everybody thinking the people are who supports me, the people are who supports me. I think the people have nothing to do with the majority in parliament. When you have the power in a Westminster system where the prime minister has the power.
Doc,
yes,
can I just say one thing in response to Chris? One thing. You want my honest opinion on that rally or that whatever that happened in the weekend, Rose? You want my honest opinion on that?
We're sidetracking, but yes, after your honest opinion.
I don't know why Chris keep going
after your honest opinion, we come into 3.
Yes.
Yeah,
my honest opinion.
Yeah.
That was just to impress the foreign observers. That was to give them the impression that there is so much opposition to what is going on. That, to me.
What's wrong with that?
Hold on. Who said there was anything wrong? I am telling you my opinion. In my view, that was an exercise in futility, because when these independent observers go and they submit their report, they're not going to include in it that there was a massive blue rally in Roseau.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
Hold on.
One moment, Chris.
What has to happen is all the people who were on the street, plus the others who were not there, take the message of electoral reform and make it user-friendly, empower more people from blue, red, green, yellow, and let them make demands on their elected reps that we're ready for changes 1, 2, 3, 4.
I agree.
That is how you move. That is how you. That is how you.
I agree.
We have 3 branches of
go
government.
with Marshall's comment. Marshall seems to agree. Let's start where we agree, where there is least resistance and fighting, and we can't figure it out yet. Like, I think most people agree. Let's sanitize the list. Why would dead people need to be on a list, on a voter's list? I think labor rights, even if they want to win, are like, clean, take off dead people's names on the list if there are, and get a voter ID card. What's wrong with that? Most places use a voter ID card. I think those are easy and great places to start. I have another comment from Paula, who says we need to bring it down to the grassroots level. We are very good. We've become very good at, talking to each other, maybe up here, but a lot of people on the ground, I think in the end, they just go kind of by guess. Like they go with maybe what is ringing loudest in the ear at the end, as opposed to necessarily always being informed and empowered. So that's an opening right there for people who are interested in having an impact on people at that level. Paula also says that victimization, though, is real. Young people who are hoping to get a scholarship Yeah, we know that's already baked into our system. This the victimization and people tolerating a lot of things to be able to get favors. Paula says she thinks the more should be done, like Mervin is saying. And I wish we would listen to each other more, because I think sometimes, maybe depending on who's telling us something, we're like la 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 la, and we miss out on some golden nuggets.
Because we enter the discussion, wherever it is, with a preset
position.
Yes, we have that in our head, and nothing is going to change us.
But it's like going to a family member.
And those politicians love that. So they love that because they have us
capitalize on that. Yeah.
It's like going to a friend for marriage counseling, because they're gonna most of the time support your agenda. You have to go to a person who have a different perspective. You have to find that
objective.
Yes.
Thought. Yeah. Well, y'all, we still have 17 folks who have been like, yeah, we're with you all night. I want to tell you guys, thank you for sitting with us for these couple hours. I appreciate you coming in, Chris. Tyrone, I appreciate you coming in. I really look forward to talking with you again. Mr. Paul, what are your final thoughts?
Listen,
how many more of these we need to have, Mervin? Look at that.
A series more.
Yeah.
I think we need to, because I think what I would love to see is taking the issues one by one. If tonight we're going to discuss campaign finance reform, we deal with campaign finance reform. We acknowledge the linkages to the other subject matters, and then we deal, if we're going to deal with re-registration and diaspora vote, we deal with that. Because I believe those are all the subjects are crucially important. And I believe there's too much glossing over those things by those so-called consultations without the people who are going to be most impacted by that. For example, they have a diaspora consultation coming up next week. I'm going to be trying. I hope I can check out of work early enough to be able to pay attention to that. Because I know they had one last week and I heard a bunch of baloney, if you ask. From those who support the blue, they were talking about everything that the blue says. Those who support the red call back and counterattack, and they think they arrived at no conclusion that one could say, okay, finally we have something that all of us can work with. On that point, this is what we agree on. So once that is the approach, we are literally stepping back. We're stepping back.
We're wasting time. We're wasting good time.
And believe me, those in power, they like that, because they're going to have an excuse for calling another election without election reform. We couldn't agree, and election time come, so we have to go.
When at the very least, we could at least have gotten some done. It's like when you're trying to get rid of debt, they call that snowballing, right? You take care of the one that is easiest.
That's right.
And then you keep going up.
It's like an exam. You go into the exam, you deal with the easier questions first, and you come back to the more difficult ones. So in the event your time finish, you have something there.
Exactly. You're going to pass. You have something. Yeah. Chris, your last thoughts, my brother. Thank you so much for coming.
I think, yes, Dr. Chief, it's a pleasure for having me. I think with any and everything, there is identity. When you think of your economy, you think of capitalism, you think of socialism, communism. I think of our friends from the past, PJ, Mamo. We've had friends like Simon Bolivar, Venezuela, Cuba, China. I think the process of social democratic society works is what I'm saying. I don't see it as a dictatorship, but a social democracy where you provide the basic needs for people, whatever. I think the voice of this electoral reform, and maybe on this program, should segue into finding friends in the region, maybe St. Lucia, Antigua, that are non-Dominicans that are following. Maybe you could find a Dominican that knows somebody that's following. That could probably be part of the discussion, because there's a bias in everything in life. And although I'm trying to be objective, some folks might think different.
You didn't come across as being objective tonight. You came across as being biased.
It's been a while. Merv, listen, I learned from the best, and I remember when you was in the same boat, So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't want to come back on you on that.
Anyway,
the green boat,
You repent.
the green boat.
The green boat.
anyway, y'all, I want to tell y'all thank you. As Mervin says, we will plan some follow-ups to these and keep talking because this is our future, our
Yeah.
children's future.
And
Okay?
I keep telling you all the time, Doc, you do not know. I still believe you don't have the true appreciation of the impact you're having with the things that you're doing on this platform. People, I mean, I don't tell you all the time, but people talk about the things that you're doing all the time.
Right.
People have found it as an avenue, an outlet to release.
Let's talk about her here too, different hairstyles.
No, but seriously, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm telling you. So when you take up subject matters like this, which are critical to our development going forward,
Your future.
It almost mandates you as a responsibility that you now have. You understand? Because people are saying that they find it's the medium and the way you allow the discussion to be dispensed. It's user friendly. They can ID. You bring in the little Creole here and there, and these are the kind of things. And Tyrone made the point that speaking in abstract for too long.
Even for me, I had to take my time. I had to sit and take time to read this stuff as the wherefore, as the A, B, C. I mean, you know what I mean?
Let me leave something with both of you. Maybe you can chew on it. Let me leave something with both of you. A commissioner submits a report, a comprehensive report that took him 6 months, 9 months, a year, and in 2 days, copies of it were made available to the public. So it means you were so familiar with the contents that you could have distributed it in 2 days. You were so familiar with that thick document that you needed no more than 2 days to read it.
That's a thought. That's a thought right there.
Think on that, Chris. Think on that. I leave that for you to chew on for the weekend.
That's a nice homework there. Yeah. Well, we hope for the best for Dominica. We continue to pray for Dominica, all of us. Yeah.
Much grace. Blessings, man.
Blessings to all of you. Have a lovely night. Okay. We'll be calling a lot for.
Adios.
Bye.
Yes.